Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Ch.15 Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyat Ravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So who do we have online?
Just me and Shweta.
Well, what would you folks like to do?
I think we just continue.
All right. So, Shweta, what verse are we on?
I think Mark said verse 8 of chapter 15.
Verse 9.
Verse 9, yes.
All right. Would you help us out, please?
Yes. Shodram chakshuh sparshanam charasanam granameva cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayanu pasevate. Presiding over the ear, the eye, the touch, the taste, and the smell, as also the mind, he experiences objects.
So here we're talking about this idea of the Chidabhasa, the reflection of consciousness caught in the web of thought, as Swamiji used to say. So this Chidabhasa, abhasa means a reflection. There are lots of images. It's like the light in a mirror. I can shine it around. Is there a light in the mirror? No, but kind of yes. Certainly it looks like there's one. Or the moons in the jars of water. Are there moons in the jars of water? No, but it looks like there's a moon. So this Chidabhasa, this reflection, gives rise to the sense of the individual knower of the world. So I went to the symphony today. You did not. You did what you did, etc. You see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, and think. Different perceptions, different feelings, different thoughts. And this karta, this agent in the subtle intellect, in the state of ignorance, gives rise to the feeling, I am the person, which means I identify as the body, or the body plus the subtle body. the personality. Now, this Purusha, as an individual sense, presides over all of that. My perception's different than yours. But when that Chidabhasa undergoes the process of detaching its identity from the physical body and the subtle body, and rediscovers its essential nature. What is the light of awareness? What is the life principle? Who, as we said in the previous chapter, the knower of the field in every field. We see, oh, there's no real individual Jim. It's Chidakash, not Chidabhas. It's the space of your awareness, not a reflection of consciousness. So in the end, it is the self that is the knowing principle everywhere. The knower of the field in every field of experience. Now, remember, what is it that gets enlightened, that gets liberated? It's not the self. Self is ever free. And in fact, Maya never really covers the self. Even if you're in a deep state of ignorance and misery and identification, nobody doubts that they are. Nobody doubts that they're aware of their misery. I am, I know. It's never really occluded or obscured. We just add on top of that direct experience this adhyasa, this superimposition. I'm the body, I'm the prana, the feelings, I'm the thoughts, I'm the ego sense. So, the liberated personality is when that subtle intellect rediscovers, oh, I'm not the body. Chidananda Rupaham. My form is bliss, consciousness. Shivoham, Shivoham. I am pure awareness. Lord Shiva, I am auspicious. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
उत्क्रामन्तस्थितं वापि भुजानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुपः. While transmigrating from one body to another, or residing in the same, or experiencing, or when united with the gunas, the deluded do not see him, but those who have the eye of wisdom behold him.
So, the self is ever free. This is why the great 20th century sage Meher Baba used to say, everybody's already realized. What's the problem? The problem is the human mind. There is no other bondage than the deeply rooted conviction in the mind, technically the subtle intellect, that I'm the body. And when I think I'm the body or the body plus the subtle body, then all the miseries of becoming start to take place. There is no other liberation than the deeply rooted conviction based on direct experience from the jnana chakshu, the eye of wisdom. Not that I'm an enlightened person, but I am Brahman. I'm that ground of being. No personal sense is real. I have no thoughts or feelings of my own. I am ever independent, unattached, asambhvam, absolutely untouched. And he uses the word here, vipashyati. The vipashyate, what was the exact term that he used, Shveta?
Nanu pashyanti gyan chakshuhu.
Yes. So drish pashyati means to see and to have real insight. It's a wonderful word in English. Vipashyana, to see what is transcendent. In the Pali, we talk about it as vipassana, insight meditation. In Sanskrit, we say vipashyana. This is seeing with the jnana chakshu, the eye. So what is it that we need to do? Let go of attachment and identification. Simple but not easy. Snip those vasanas till we are sthita prajna. We have this constant, effortless knowledge of Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Just like for the ordinary person, you do not doubt that you have a human body. You don't wake up like a character in the Kafka short story thinking you're a cockroach or a centipede or whatever it is. You don't think you're a goat or a cow or a horse or a pig. It takes no effort to know you have a human body. So also for the woman of wisdom, the Sthita Prajna Purusha, the person of steady wisdom. It's very clear to them all the time. I am Brahman. Next verse.
Last, do you have any pointers on snipping attachment?
Pointers on snipping attachments. Yeah. The way we do it is through insight. We have to clearly understand what the attachment is giving me. In Shankar's Vivekachudamani, he talks about his definition of shama, that peaceful state of mind when it rests in steady contemplation of the goal, after having again and again detached itself from the chaos of the sense objects through a steady observation of their defects. This is not meaning to say that chocolate is bad or the approval of other people is bad, or good music is bad. No. No, it's the attachment. It's the belief that there's something enduring, that there's something I can hold on to with it, that it's going to give me something that is full. When in fact, all the happiness of this world, Vedanta never says there's no happiness in the world. It's just the result of a whole lot of work, and it's always temporary. And if you get attached, you want to do it again and again and again. So the way out is again through mindfulness, through deep insight. When you're stuck wanting, when I was doing sadhana in the ashram, you've heard me say this, my nickname for my mind was Buddha. So there I am, wanting again and again and again. And if you pay attention, Mark, it's so boring and it's so repetitive. Do we finally give up that particular attachment? But we don't give it up until we see that it's causing me trouble. Let me tell you a true story. So last week I was across the street at the bus stop, struck up a conversation with this fellow, and he had just gotten out of the hospital. He'd been in the hospital for a month because he fell down drunk. So we began to talk about sobriety. No, I'm not ready for that. Besides, I found that you can't go cold turkey or you have seizures. You're a doctor. Why would someone be having seizures if they went cold turkey off of alcohol?
They're addicted.
Yeah, they're more than just addicted. They're heavily addicted. You can die from those seizures. His girlfriend of 25 years threw him out of the house, but he doesn't know why. He's been medically admitted to medical detoxes and rehab. So we get on the bus. His life is a mess. He has no place to live. He's really ill. But it's all bad luck, everybody's fault. He has no idea what's causing his misery. He's in that state where he's thinking, if you had my problems, you'd drink too. But someone from the outside knows, really, if you put the plug in the jug, get into recovery, your life will improve much more quickly than you think. But he can't see it. Now that's an extreme case. But are you understanding the dynamic, Mark? His craving, his addiction is causing him to suffer, and he can't see the cause and effect relationship. That is where all of us are with our attachments.
So even attachment with like significant other or something like that?
You can love a significant other, but you need to do it with detachment. So if Victor doesn't pay attention to you for a day or two, do you get crazy?
No.
Yeah. Now, all of the rishis were householders. There's nothing wrong with being a householder. There's nothing wrong with sex. But you know if you have an attachment. Now, I warn everybody who's married or has a partner, all relationships end in death or divorce.
Yeah.
That's what you have to look forward to. Hey,
Yep. Yeah, I've thought of that.
pardon me?
I've heard you say that many times. I know that.
Yes. So what do? Cherish what you have. You're not a young man anymore.
No, but how do you cherish without holding on to it? That's what I.
Well, you could go. I went to the symphony today. I heard a gorgeous Tchaikovsky piano trio. I do not need to take the musicians home. I don't need to camp out at the symphony hall. If I go next time and it's all elbows on the piano music, okay. It's not Tchaikovsky, you know, let it go. There's nothing wrong with the enjoyment of the world. It's the attachment that's problematic.
Right.
And you'll know if you've got a toxic attachment because when it all changes, you're going to be upset. So, something upset you this week?
No, no.
Okay, you're probably doing well.
So, Jim, could I jump in here?
Please.
So, something did upset me this week. And it's related to Mark's question. And I think it's a good thing for me to discuss because it's not a situation like a significant other where, there is a particular amount of attachment. So let me tell you what happened. I have a student and I set up an internship for her with somebody. And she's over there and, she's doing her best. And the person that she's working with over there, he's a faculty member. He's quite young. And in a private conversation with me, he was very critical of her. And it is my estimate that, a lot of faculty, they treat this whole thing in a very transactional way, like in a very, this is what I need out of it, and you did not live up to it. I mean, the human aspect is kind of missing or not as much.
Uh-huh.
So now the situation is that there's no real, there's nothing really I can do from my side. I spoke to the student as well as this other person, and I tried to handle it as best as I could. It's not that I'm super duper attached to the student. I do care about her, of course, and I'll try to help out as much as I can. But it's the kind of thing that just makes me sad. So, for the last couple of days, since whenever this happened, my mind is sort of clouded over by this because it just makes me sad that, we have to be living in this way. So, where here is my attachment?
Well, you had an expectation. Now, what you could do is if you understand that this particular faculty person needs some maturity in the way in which he works with interns or however you
Yeah, interns,
call
let's.
this,
Yeah,
Maybe he's not the right guy to recommend next time.
yeah, sure, for
So we
sure.
can learn from it. When it comes to the student, if she's bright and talented, maybe, I don't know if you could find another internship for her if this isn't working, but you may not be able to fix it. And what we have to do is do our best and let God do the rest. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. But worrying is not a particularly good spiritual tool.
It's not even worrying, Jim, but it makes me sad. And this is something that I run into again and again with lots of different situations.
What I would do would be to go into meditation and ask God as you understand God. Is there anything I need to do? And if you don't get an answer, sometimes the answer is, I'm not telling you. You can always do something like Tonglen, which is you inhale the sadness, you breathe out peace. You inhale the conflict between these two people, and you exhale understanding. That is something I have found very useful. I love that meditation. Have we talked about Tonglen before?
I think we have, and I've also read about it in other places, so I'm aware
Yes.
of this practice.
The Tibetan nun Pema Chodron has a wonderful article on it online. It's very, very easy to read and to get the technique of the practice. Now, there was a Western journalist who asked His Holiness the Dalai Lama if he practiced Tonglen. And His Holiness said, yes, I do. And the journalist says, do you think it does any good? And His Holiness thought for a moment, and he's wonderfully honest. He says, I don't know, but I feel better when I do it. So, of course, the teaching is it does make a difference. This is part of Tantra. You know, this world is like a dream, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. And we can do some dream shaping through our sankalpa. That's what Tonglen is. It's a sankalpa. But a sankalpa is most powerful in a quiet, detached, serene mind, not a worried mind. But going all the way back to chapters 3, 4, and 5 of Gita, thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. All we can do is our best and turn the karma palam over to God. That's all any of us can do.
So does having sadness or having anger indicate an attachment
Pretty
necessarily?
much. Sadness is grieving. We grieve the loss of something. We grieve that it doesn't turn out the way we want. But what do? Get out. You watch the feeling, be present to it. It's not evil or bad. Just be present to it. Anger is thwarted desire, unmet expectation. That's all it is. I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get my way.
So again, Jim, like with regards to anger, though we've spoken of this many times, Like, for instance, one of the things that makes me angry is that people don't show up on time. And this happens, all the time. And many times it's students.
Yes.
So I don't know what thwarted desire is there. I mean, this is,
Your
this is,
expectation is that people will respect your time. I think it's a reasonably reasonable expectation.
they
But what
should,
you need
shouldn't
to
they?
do, what you need to do is set a boundary. We set boundaries for ourselves, not other people. So what you can do is on the first day of class, that tardiness, your attendance is part of your grade. It's 10, 15%, 20% part of your grade. If you're late or you miss class, it will reflect in your grade. It's up to you. I take attendance at the beginning of class. If you're not here, you lose. And you keep your boundary. Let me give you an example of how not to do it. I was listening to a person who has an alcoholic parent. The alcoholic parent keeps calling at 1, 2, 3 in the morning drunk. And they keep saying, don't call me when you're drinking. Don't call me in the middle of the night. And all upset because the drunken parent won't do what they ask. The answer is very clear. Don't pick up the phone. So we set healthy boundaries for ourselves. Now, culturally, timeliness is not a high priority in many dimensions of Indian society. I mean, we joke about it over here. We call it IST. Do you guys do that too, Shweta?
Yeah, we do it.
Yeah. And Swamiji was definite about it. So if you came late to class, he would embarrass you right in front of everybody. If meditation was at 6:30 in the morning, he'd lock the door. You couldn't get in if you were late. I was at an event actually here in the Bay Area that Swami Tejomayananda did. And it was some big event, and there was some local Indian dignitary who was giving a speech and awards and presentations. And Tejomayananda's satsang was supposed to start, at a specific time. This guy had, I think, 10 minutes, and he went way over. Tejomayana comes out. He gets up on his little seat, and he just starts talking over the guy. He just started class. Totally embarrassed the guy. But the point I'm getting at is you can ask people to respect your limits. Good luck, though. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But you and I can set a healthy boundary. Now, I've become a lot looser as I've gotten older. I used to be quite a martinet about people being late to class, etc. I'm just, it's too much energy. If they're late, they're late. They miss stuff, they miss stuff. Just as long as they don't disturb things. They come in the middle of meditation. I'm just not as rigid as I used to be. But you can set whatever boundary, whatever rules you want for your classroom.
Yes, actually, I get it, Jim. And with the classroom and in situations where I'm in the authority position, I already do that. The difficulty comes when the other person is in the authority position. So, somebody senior to me, or there are situations where I'm the student, like I learn music from a girl and she is frequently late to the class. So these are situations where I get pretty frustrated. But I guess even over there, I can.
Well, if you are the student and they are the teacher and they're chronically late,
Yes.
then what you may have to do is let go of your expectation. So let me tell you another true story. I had a wonderful friend, Michael Wyatt, rest his soul. And he grew up, even though he was white, his parents were missionaries in Latin America. So he grew up with a Latin American idea of time, which is also not nearly as strict as US culture is in general. So we would have a date. I would go pick him up at 4 o'clock, and then we would go. Actually, we would do German Lieder together. I would sing and he would play. He was always 20 minutes late. So I would say, I'll pick you up at 4, and then I would show up at 4:20. And he'd be coming downstairs. This went on for a couple of years. And then he says, Jim, how come you always come at 4:20 when you say you're going to be here at 4? And I says, because you're 20 minutes late always. He was so offended. I said, you're going to be 20 minutes late for your own funeral. But that's because I couldn't make him be on time. Can't control other people. So you ask for what you want, and sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. You might communicate to her, my time is very valuable. I schedule pretty tightly because I have these obligations at school. Should we change the time of our lesson where you might be able to be more timely? Don't be afraid to be
No,
direct
no.
with her.
No, I've done that. I think actually it's time for me to let go of these lessons because we've been over this many times and it does not really change.
And you can tell her,
Yeah, I will do
enjoy
that.
your music. I think you're a wonderful person. But the fact that you're chronically late doesn't work for me. So I'm going to
Yeah,
find a
that's
teacher.
right.
Then
That's
she gets to take responsibility for her behavior. Let her know why you're doing it in a kind but gentle way, but be specific.
yes,
It's
that's
no
what I,
act of love for her to delude herself.
yeah, thank you.
And I'm that way too. I tell people that I see one on one, my time is valuable. If it's a regular student, regular sponsee in a 12-step program, I say you get 3 flakes. If you flake on me 3 times, if you're late, if you skip without notice, after the 3rd time, we don't work together anymore. Pretty much it works. I had one person I was working with who, again, was 10, 20 minutes late always. And he would say, well, life just happens. And I knew that he went to the symphony on a regular basis and bought Loge tickets, which are $150 apiece. So I asked him, John, are you ever late for the symphony? Because I know that if you're late for the symphony, you wait outside until the first, interval. He's never late for the symphony because he's paying $150. So I just kind of raised an eyebrow. Because what it indicated is, what does he think is important? My time's important to me, may not be important to you. But we have to be willing to also soften if the situation requires. And understand your own karma has brought this to you. So the lesson is, how do you set a healthy boundary and not get upset, not get annoyed, just be clear.
That's a work in progress.
Oh, for all of us. For all of us. Good and important stuff. But the principle is, we don't give away our power to other people and try to make them observe our boundaries. We can have our limits, we can ask for what we want, but there's no guarantee other people will do that. But we have our boundaries, we are responsible for honoring them. That's the great lesson. All right, is that principle clear for you, Shweta?
Yes, yes.
It's not obvious right away, but if you practice it, you see it. I tell people I don't see people before 10 o'clock. I don't answer the phone till after 8 o'clock. I have my morning ritual. If somebody calls before that, I don't answer the phone. I look at the phone, they called at 7:45, okay. At 8:15, 8:20, I'll call them back. But I don't get angry at them. I just have my boundary, and I'm the one who has to observe it, not other people. All right. Any other questions on this? On attachment, expectation, identification.
No.
All right, next verse.
Yatanto yoginashchainam pashyantyaatmanyavasthitam yatantopyakratatmano nainam pashyantyachetasah. The seeker striving for perfection, behold him dwelling in the self. But the unrefined and unintelligent, even though striving, see him not.
Yes. So if we have a sattvic mind and we have practiced viveka and vairagya, then we can behold the self as my own being. The foolish person whose mind is gross meaning there's an enormous amount of attachment and identification. Even though they strive, they still can't see it. And frequently they strive in the wrong way. They'll get caught up in all sorts of little side tracks. Get all caught up in diet. Get all caught up in ritual purity. There's that wonderful, very, very famous hymn of Shankara's Bhajagovindam. Bhajagovindam Mudha Mate. So he comes across this Brahmin who's trying to memorize grammar rules. Shankar says, dude, you're wasting your time. Love Krishna. Don't worry about grammar. Now, Sanskrit is a beautiful language. It's certainly worth studying. But it's ancillary, secondary. You don't need to know Sanskrit to realize the sound. All right, next verse. Are you there, Shweta?
Yes, sorry, I was chanting muted. Yadaditya tejo jagadbhasayate kilam yachandramasi yachagnaute tat tejo vidhi mamakam. That light which is residing in the sun and which illumines the whole world, and that which is in the moon and the fire, know that light to be mine.
So this tejas, this brilliance, this light in the sun, in the moon, in everything, it actually is the light of awareness, the light of consciousness that lightens everything. I love the idea of God being referred to as Surya, as sun. Because the sun just shines. It is its nature to bestow its warmth and its light on the world. Its energy is the source of all, physiologically, all the life on the planet. No one has the weird idea, oh, the sun doesn't like me because I'm a sinner. I dwell in darkness because the sun is punishing me. That's, of course, absurd. The sun doesn't care. But if I stay inside and black out curtains on the windows and never go outside because of my fear, it isn't the sun that's punishing me. Or I like to use the example, if I go outside with a paper bag over my head, sun doesn't care. The sun still shines. I need to take the paper bag off. What is the paper bag? Egoism in its various forms. My selfishness, my self-seeking, my fear, my ignorance, my craving, my resentment, my anger. All these forms of self obscure my direct experience of the sunlight of the Spirit. So, Surya as a god is a metaphor. But the grace of the self is always there. There's the old slogan in English, if you don't feel close to God, who moved? God. So it is the light of lights, the awareness that shines on everything, illumines everything. Actually, physics is coming to the point. Some physicists describe that it's the very act of knowing things that concretizes them. Without the observation of them, there's just the potentiality of their being. I don't understand it. I may have misunderstood the physics.
No, that's accurate.
That's accurate?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But that's so close to the Vedanta.
Yes.
So incredibly close to the Vedanta. All right, next verse.
Gamavishya cha bhutani dharayam ya hamojasa पुष्णामि चौषधिः सर्वः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकम्. Permeating the earth, I support all beings by my energy, and having become the liquid moon, I nourish all herbs.
So this is the ancients' understanding of the sun and the moon as lights, that the liquidy moon, they thought the moon was liquidy. And of course, they understood intuitively that the tidal effects of the moon affect growing things in this world. But the deeper point here is Krishna is not only pure awareness. Way, way back in the second chapter, in the 16th verse, our poet Vyasa plays with these two terms, Sat and Bhava. Sat means existence, but Bhava means being, something that's alive. In that verse, he basically says, only the self actually is, and only the self has Bhava, being. So whatever in this world has being, it can be plants, insects, reptiles, fish, birds, larger mammals, dinosaurs, higher animals, elephants, cetaceans, great apes. They say humans are at the pinnacle of creation. I'm not so sure sometimes. But in any case, the bhava, the being, all living creatures is the touch from this Brahman contact. The life principle in everything. Those of us who studied Prajna Upanishad, the very first question, very first Prashna, our Rishi Pipalada talks about how out of Brahman comes the first idea, the creator God, Prajapati, who then divides itself into prana, raimcha, energy and matter. And that Prajapati is the sentience of the whole play of energy and matter. This is thousands of years before Einstein discovered E equals mc squared. Prashna Upanishad, without the mathematics, says exactly the same thing, but talks about the life principle. All right, next verse.
Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Samayukta Pachamannam Chaturvidham. Having become the fire, Vishwanara, I abide in the body of beings and associated with prana and apana, digest the fourfold food.
Yes. So, Vishwanara, is that what he calls it?
Yes, Vishwanara.
Yes. Which means the person who sees the waking state. It's the same word that we get in the Mandukya Upanishad, Vaishwanara. The person who knows the waking state. And how did Swamiji translate it?
The word Vaishwanara is just given as it is. Oh, you mean in the commentary?
Yes, or in his translation.
So in the translation, he just writes Vaishwanara. And then in the commentary later, he says the same supreme consciousness expresses itself as the warmth of life in all living creatures.
Yeah, yes. So actually it means the consciousness that illumines the waking state world. And just like we had in Krishna Upanishad, so this Raim, matter, and prana become the building blocks for all of creation. And in a person, that prana then divides itself into what we call the Pancha Vayu, the five airs, literally. They are prana, inhalation, Apana, elimination. Samana, digestion. Dhyana, circulation. But it also means the dispersal of energy through the subtle nadis, starting with the Anahata chakra, the heart chakra, would go out. All of that is part of dhyana. And then udana, the thinking capacity in a human being. Udana is also, I'm calling it the red ejection button. The moment of death, you push the ejection button and out you go. Subtle body leaves the physical body, it's a corpse, and it goes on. So all of the pranas then are gathered together. So by just prana and apana, he's referencing the whole system of the Panchavayu. So this is the energy in its various subtle forms that enlivens every living being. Some living beings don't necessarily have udana to the same degree. There's a wonderful book called Overstory. It's about trees. But one of the things that it talks about is how intelligent trees are. They have their own form of udana. The giant redwoods, their circulation, their dhyana is so powerful, they create their own weather. On a warm day, you walk into a redwood grove and the temperature drops about 5 to 10 degrees. When I was staying up at Krishnalaya, there on the Eel River, it was a big, huge, old growth redwood grove. In the morning, you'd get up and you'd look at the grove, and there would be mist, for cloud formation above the redwood trees. It was the trees breathing. Very, very cool. So these pranas occur in form all throughout life. And now we just got through a phase where we had a solar flare. And it seems that those two are periodic. So we can say to some degree, the sun itself is breathing. It has its own energy cycle. So the idea here is this prana is the energizing force for all living beings and basically all things everywhere. And this again is spelled out very completely in that first prashna, that first question in the Prashnopanishad. Okay, I think we'll quit early here. What verse are we on for next week?
15.
Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.